October is already well underway, and it's no secret that this is going to be a massive month for gaming. Namely, we all know that Spider-Man 2 is coming out on October 20th, and a lot of people are wondering what to play in the meantime to hold them over as we're all consumed with this hype over Spider-Man. And my brain naturally went to Assassin's Creed Mirage. And this is really a series that I've loved, Nick has loved. We've played these games since all the way back to the first title, and it's one that we've recently kind of fallen out of love with Valhalla, but with this game promising to bring a callback to the original Assassin's Creed games, we were very interested in checking this one out and seeing if it is that true hold me over title as we wait for Spider-Man 2. And thankfully enough, Ubisoft was kind enough to provide us with an early access copy of this game, and Nick and I have both played through it. We have opinions about this game, and we are very excited to share our thoughts with all of you about Assassin's Creed Mirage and whether it's worth the $50 price tag that Ubisoft has attached to this title, and whether it is going to be that game that will hold you over as we all wait for Spider-Man 2. We'll find out in just a moment, but first, if you're new to the channel, we would love to have you, and the way to do that is go down below this video, click that subscribe button, and make sure to click the bell notification button right on next to it. It's going to let you know every single time that Nick and I upload. That said, Nick, you ready to get into some Assassin's Creed Mirage today?
Yes, I definitely am. We have a lot to talk about.
Yeah, we do. Let's do it, guys. For the purposes of this review, we are really going to keep spoilers out of this one. We're really going to be focused on the gameplay, the game itself, the game mechanics, the open world. But Nick, if we just maybe wanted to touch very briefly on what we can expect out of this story, maybe the length, the depth, and just our general overall impressions first, and then dig into the gameplay, that'd be great.
Yeah, I definitely agree. We definitely want to make this as spoiler-free as possible, but I do think it is important to contextualize what Assassin's Creed Mirage is all about. And it takes place in 9th century Baghdad, where we pick up with a common thief known as Basim, and we go on the journey with him, joining the Brotherhood as they fight to take down a mysterious group known as the Order. There's that classic Assassin's Creed supernatural artifact and all of that great Assassin's Creed stuff in this game. Now, that is all I really want to say about the details of the story, but Andreas, I want to get into our thoughts of how the story unfolded, what we thought of it, what was our impressions, what did it do to you? Like, how did you feel about it? Because for me personally, a lot of the talk I've seen about this game was not really enjoying the way the story was unfolding. A lot of people were saying that they didn't like the way that the game was written, but I personally was enjoying the story. I really liked the way it was unfolding. Now, it is a more safe story than, say, what we've seen from previous entries in this franchise, but I don't think it's horrible by any means, or the worst written Assassin's Creed game of all time. I've seen that thrown around. I did not think it was anywhere close to being that bad. I honestly thought it was perfectly fine. It was a very safe story.
Yeah, I can definitely see that, and again, I want to echo your sentiment, Nick, that I want to be very careful to kind of skirt around any details here, but my general impressions on this story is that I warmed up to the story as it went along. I think I started off just a little cold at the beginning, but as I started to understand the characters a bit better, their intentions, their place in the world, and again, some elements that we are familiar with Assassin's Creed, I again am going to be as vague as possible. As I played through the game, it really picked up more and more momentum, and I felt myself that much more gravitated towards it, and I really didn't want to put this game down. And honestly, if there's any compliment I can give a game, it's that I want to play it. I want to finish it, and this game certainly, it had its hooks in me by the time that I reached about the 5 to 6 or maybe even like 7 hour mark. Like, I really was dedicated to finishing it, so that's the best I can say about this game.
Yeah, my biggest takeaway from this game, before we move into more of the gameplay mechanics portion of this review, is that fans of the old AC games, I think, will enjoy the overall return to the roots of this game, like return to what we know of the first 3 Assassin's Creed games. And that's in terms of the gameplay and formatting of this game. However, I do think the story will be a little hit or miss with some people, and I think that's going to be entirely dependent on how well you connect with the characters and their ambitions and what's driving them, and just kind of how you connect with the underlying foundational story beats of this game. And I think it's something that you are going to find out very quickly, whether or not you really connect with these characters and their intentions, and just the overall direction of the story, because I think this game does a good job of making itself very clear very quickly as to what direction we're headed. Of course, there's, classic twists and all of that stuff that you see in games and stories, but I think this game makes itself pretty clear pretty quickly where we're headed for the most part. So I definitely think that will be the big controversial thing with this game, because in terms of gameplay, performance, all of the stuff like that, this game is perfectly fine. It is really, foundationally safe. It's well built. It is not broken in any means in terms of gameplay or performance. I just think that what's going to be hit or miss with people in terms of how they feel about this game and the overall outcome score of this game is going to be just how well they connect with the story. Now, speaking of performance, that is what I want to get into now. Now, Andreas, you and I played on actually both of the modes that we have offered in this game. I, of course, played on the high frame rate performance mode. You started off on quality mode before switching to the high frame rate mode. And I gotta say, it was very well built, especially for an early access version of this game, especially with other games that we've had early access to. I felt like this was actually pretty strong on a foundational level in terms of performance. I never experienced any frame rate drops. There were a couple minor glitches here and there with some of the animations or characters getting stuck in the ground or my foot going through the floor, something like that, but there really was no big performance issue in this game. It was something that I was really impressed with, especially because we know some of these Assassin's Creed games in the past have had their performance issues. I think back to Assassin's Creed Unity, that game was kind of a hot mess for a long time there in terms of frame rate drops and glitches, but I personally never really experienced anything, and I definitely didn't experience any game-breaking bugs or anything. I was highly impressed with the performance mode in this game. It looked great, it ran great, it was just a good experience.
I generally agree with all of your sentiments there, Nick. Playing on the PS5, which both Nick and I played on the PS5, I consider this to be a very stable game. This game runs just fine. The gameplay that you will be watching is actually in the quality mode, not the high frame rate mode, because I was capturing on quality in 4K 30, but I switched to 4K 60 after a while of playing just to see the difference, and there was no discernible drop in fidelity for me. There was minor texture pop-in, but I would highly recommend, if you're playing on the PS5, play it on the high frame rate mode. It's going to be a lot smoother, and it's going to look a lot better than the gameplay that you are seeing on screen right now, so I would highly recommend that you go for the high frame rate mode. As for glitches, I just had, the very minor glitches here and there, like you were saying, Nick, just like I saw like a donkey like clipping a gate once, and just little things that are gonna pop up in an open world game that are totally forgivable. I think generally things worked well. There was a bit of AI funk when it comes to the stealth gameplay, which we will get into, but I wouldn't consider that like a glitch or unstable or anything in the realm of, prior unstable games like we've seen, like when Cyberpunk originally came out. Not to be confused with Cyberpunk 2.0, which is running a bit better, but this is a stable game. And on that note, Nick, I think we should probably shift gears to the general gameplay here. And really, I'm looking at gameplay as maybe like 3 buckets in this game. There is like the general stealth gameplay, which is really what this game will push you to play, is to play very stealthy, keep a low profile, and pick off people one at a time. There's also the combat, which is general sword and dagger gameplay, and then there's the parkour system that we are all very familiar with Assassin's Creed. Is there any particular one of these buckets you want to attack first, Nick?
Yeah, I think we should start with stealth, because like you said, that is something that this game really pushes you to embrace. They really want you to do things in a stealthy way, and if you get caught and you kind of break from that mold, you are punished for it. Like, they will go ring the bell or they'll sound their horn, and they will bring a horde of enemies after you that you're going to have to take down in order to move on. They really do reward you for engaging in the stealth mechanics of this game. And, I thought the stealth for me personally was a little hit or miss depending on the situation that I was in. There were elements where I would assassinate a guard and then I would go sneak back behind in the bush, and then another guard would be like, oh, what was that? And they would come try to find me, but they would walk right past like the dead body and they wouldn't even notice it. But then there were other instances where they would walk past the dead body and they would notice it. And then I also had instances where I could like hang off the side of a cliff, assassinate, grab somebody, pull them off the cliff. Someone else would get alerted. They'd be like, whoa, what is that? They would walk over and I could just like keep doing it to them until I cleared the whole area. It was like the AI in this game is very hit or miss in terms of its intelligence with the stealth mode. They're very easy to fool, but when you do get caught, you are going to pay for it. So I wouldn't say that this is like a bad stealth system. It is a very safe inline stealth system with what we've seen from the Assassin's Creed games. You can hide in the hay, you can hide in, behind things, stuff like that. But I do think the intelligence of the AI sometimes does take away a little bit from the experience. And I definitely think this is not a difficult stealth experience. I never was frustrated with the stealth like I have been in some games where, I would get to a point in a game and be like, oh my God, I'm going to be here for the next 45 minutes to an hour trying to sneak around this guard because he doesn't move or there's a billion of them. I never felt frustrated. It was pretty easy to get through the stealth components of this game.
It is definitely more on the fun side of stealth games that I've played. I totally agree with you on that front, Nick. Like, there have been some stealth games that are just totally frustrating. And that said, if you hate stealth games, like if stealth just is not for you, if you're always preferring to run and gun, this game might not be your favorite game. And the reason being is it's really pushing the player to go towards stealth. Like you said, Nick, there are people who will ring a bell, there are people who will blow the horn and call reinforcements, and the second that you lose that stealth element to your game, it will be very difficult for you, and 9 times out of 10 things are going to fall apart for you in a mission if you are not completing it in a stealthy manner. So if you really don't like that, I would just caution you of that. There are other redeemable qualities about this game that you will probably like, which we will get into later, but I would advise anyone before they play this game that there is, like, stealth is a big part of this game. This is a stealth game. And that said, Nick, the alternative to stealth when you are faced hand-to-hand with an opponent is combat. And I think we both have a pretty strong opinion on the combat in this game. For me, it almost feels like a step back to Assassin's Creed 1, where there was a general evolution of combat from Assassin's Creed 1 to Assassin's Creed 2, where they introduced more weapon variety, more animations, the dual blades. Like, I just felt like there was a lot more going on for combat in AC2, and that's why I think a lot of people, myself included, you included, love AC2. It's like one of the greatest games in this franchise. And they've really parsed away with a lot of that in their attempt to gaming experience, but I think in the combat area, I think they might have taken that approach a step too far, and I would have liked to see a bit more variety in terms of the weapons that you have. You have a sword and you have a dagger, and the animations are they're all right. Like they are brutal at times. There is animation variety, but the longer you're going to play this game, the more you are going to think about other titles. Like, I'm thinking of Jedi Survivor, for example, where you have different combat stances. You are going to have more in-depth skill trees with more animation sets hidden therein, and you might be missing out on some of that with combat, and that's another reason why you are probably going to be going towards stealth gameplay in this game, because the combat just doesn't have that same satisfying feel to it. It's definitely a more simplistic approach to combat that we've seen in recent years out of Ubisoft, specifically for this franchise.
I think that is a great way to describe it. It is incredibly simplistic. Like, you are not getting a Ghost of Tsushima style experience out of the sword combat in this game. I don't want to call it an afterthought, but it almost kind of felt like an afterthought for this game, that they were really building up the stealth component, and it was like, well, the player could get caught, and if they do get caught, they're gonna have to fight their way out of it. So, like, of course we're gonna have like sword and dagger combat and stuff like that, but super simplistic. You see a lot of repeat animations, and it's just, Press L1 to parry, to break their block, and then hit them with R1 until your stamina drains, and you got a light attack, and you got a heavy attack, and that's pretty much it. There are throwing knives and other tools that you can use at your disposal, but the one thing that I really did notice when it comes to combat, and another reason I think that this game really pushes you towards the stealth component, is that health and elixir and stuff like that is incredibly hard to come by. Like, resources for me, for like throwing knives, tools, for health, very hard to come by. Food was hard to come by to get health back. Like, if you get hit, you are going to be low on health for like a very long time, and this game really punishes you for dying. Like, there was a point where I was trying to clear out a compound along the story, and I ended up dying because I got caught. I broke, the stealth component of it, got caught. Horde after horde of enemy came after me. I got wiped out pretty quickly. And then when I respawned in, not only did I have to restart the compound area, it placed me over 1,000 meters away from that compound. So this game really does punish you for dying. And I just wonder if that's another reason that they push you towards the stealth, is that if you're going to go into combat, you better be damn sure you're going to get out of it with the resources that you have, because it's not going to hold your hand in that capacity. So I think simplistic and punishing is a great way to explain the combat portion of this game. And the other thing, of course, I want to talk about in terms of the gameplay itself, Andreas, is what is one thing that we all play Assassin's Creed for? What is it known for? It is known for its parkour, climbing up the sides of buildings, running from rooftop to rooftop, up ropes, stuff like that. And I think this is pretty in line with most Assassin's Creed experiences. Like you said, we kind of fell out of favor with Assassin's Creed recently with the Valhalla and Odyssey versions of this game, and we didn't really put a whole lot of time into those games. Really, the last Assassin's Creed game that I put a lot of time into, I would say, is probably Unity or Syndicate or something like that. And the parkour in this game felt pretty much exactly the same from what I remember from a few years ago. The only thing I would say about the parkour and kind of the overall traversal mechanic in this game is, for me, it felt a little slow at times. It felt like I was running in molasses sometimes. I don't know if that you had the same experience, but I feel like they could speed it up a little bit.
Yeah, I think in that regard, I wanted a little more fluidity out of the parkour. I definitely think pace is helpful for that, but it felt a little clunky at times, and in some instances where I was trying to maintain my anonymity, because anonymity is so important in this game, especially with how much they are emphasizing stealth and getting caught, I found myself sometimes stuck on ledges, and then I got spotted, and then it just kind of starts this domino effect where you then have to replay the mission. So I would like a little more fluidity and a little more creativity out of the parkour system, but it is a solid parkour system that works. It is one that has been the tried and true formula for Ubisoft for this series for so many years. That said, I want a little more inventiveness out of the parkour systems in future games when we do get a AAA budget for an Assassin's Creed game. This of course started off as a DLC project, so I'm not expecting them to reinvent the wheel when it comes to parkour on this game. This just is not that game, but I would like to see that in the future. For this game, it works. It'll get you around Baghdad, and it will do the job. It just could use a little bit more pace and fluidity. I totally agree with you there, Nick. And on that note, of course, the parkour is taking you through this beautiful open world of Baghdad, which I will go ahead and say, Nick, I love Baghdad as a setting for this game. I think it is a great period to be in. I think it's bringing more of that historical element to Assassin's Creed that I love about Assassin's Creed. There's more going on. It is a smaller area than Valhalla, but it is packed full of details. It's packed full of culture. I feel like I'm learning about what it must have been like to live in Baghdad in the 9th century, and that is the best thing I can say about this game. Of course, you all know about things like the morning prayer playing, or the call to the mosque in the morning. The soundtrack of this game is great. It really gives you that nice Middle Eastern vibe, and I just loved learning all of the different codex entries, the history of Baghdad, all the different database entries. I was loving all of that stuff, and I was getting distracted a lot. Like, for example, Nick, there were so many times where you're aware there's this anonymity system in this game where if you commit a crime in public, you almost gain like this wanted rating, kind of like in GTA, and then you have to go pull down posters to reduce your anonymity. And I would find myself in a process where I'd go look for posters, and then I'd get distracted with a codex entry, and then I would get sidetracked with a side mission. There was one instance where I found a ziggurat, and then I started exploring the ziggurat for artifacts, and it felt very Indiana Jonesy. It reminded me of searching around the pyramids in Assassin's Creed Origins, and that is where I love this game the most. And for that reason alone, if you are not on board with the stealth, if you're not on board with anything else in this game, if you are still really curious about exploring and learning about a 9th century Baghdad, it is worth it for that reason alone. For me, that is why I love Assassin's Creed, and for this game, it really hits that note out of the park. I love it for that reason.
Yeah, I was really surprised by how big the map for this game actually was. Now, of course, like, it's not Valhalla size, like you said. Like, this is not the biggest map we've ever seen, but I was surprised by the overall size of the map in this game, and I think it was more than enough for this game to accomplish what it needed to accomplish. Honestly, I almost felt it was a little too big at times. I really thought we were going for a more smaller scale map in this game, so that was something that really surprised me. Now, what I think the open world and exploration of this game really does a good job of is making you feel that return to the roots of the classic Assassin's Creed games. And what I mean by that is kind of how you progress the missions in the open world and progress the story. And what I'm talking about is like the investigational component of this, and having to eavesdrop on people to get clues, and having to tail people to get clues to progress the story and collect those clues really took me back to the early Assassin's Creed 1, Assassin's Creed 2 days. It really reminded me of that. Plus, given the setting of this game, like you said, Andreas, in that early Baghdad setting, it makes you feel like you're in Assassin's Creed 1. Of course, this is not where Assassin's Creed 1 was, and not the same time as Assassin's Creed 1, but it really makes you feel it. Like, it has the same feeling, environmental feeling. You have the same kind of components and mechanics for the open world gameplay, and that was my biggest takeaway from this game, and what I really loved the most about it was it made me feel like it was, 15 years ago playing the first Assassin's Creed games, and that's what I love the most about this game for sure. Now, of course, I want to finish this off by talking about the overall mechanics for this game. I'm talking about like the tools, the skill trees, just the extra stuff like that. And this game has 3 skill trees, nothing incredibly robust, nothing that's going to blow your mind. There's a phantom skill tree, a trickster skill tree, and a predator skill tree, and they just improve different components of the gameplay, like your combat. You unlock a couple new animations or a couple extra throwing knife slots, stuff like that. You can upgrade the eagle so that he can see more, stuff like that. It's nothing crazy like we're going to see in Marvel Spider-Man 2 where there's like a billion skill trees. It's nothing like that, but I think for what this game is, it does its job. It kind of hits on the same general message that we've been seeing with this game, is that it's a very safe game. It's very foundationally strong, and it's not going to reinvent the wheel, but it's just, a safe, classic Assassin's Creed game, and I think it does a good job of doing that.
I agree, Nick, on that front. I think this game is not going to give you a ton to chew on. Like, if you're looking for that complex action RPG element that Assassin's Creed has been trying to serve all of us over the last few years, this is the complete opposite of that, and that is pervasive throughout the skill trees in this game. It is almost like a hors d'oeuvre. This game is perfectly designed to be like a gap stop game as you are maybe waiting a couple weeks between now and Spider-Man 2. If you're just looking for a classic Assassin's Creed experience, the skill trees in this game are very simplistic. The tools system in this game is very simplistic. There is just a tools wheel that has things such as throwing knives, like the noisemaker is one of them that I was using. I think there's like a blow dart and some others, and they have a very basic upgrade system. There's like 3 collectibles that you might be using to upgrade things. You have leather, steel, and components to upgrade things. It's just very basic in that regard. And then you also have different favor tokens that you can do contract side missions to collect these favor tokens. Then it can help you get ahead in the main missions in the game. Things are just very simple, and it's very easy to grab a hold of. And I think that just pervades the mechanics of this game. And then I guess the final element is a bit of customization. There are different outfits in this game. You can have some traditional outfits. Nick, I know you unlocked the Altair outfit, and I'm sure that also helped you get in the vibe of Assassin's Creed 1. And all outfits are upgradable through tailors in the game. And then you have the sword and the dagger, which are upgradable through the blacksmiths in the game. So things are just very simple and easy to digest, and for that reason, if you're looking for a game that you can really get into for maybe a week or two and then digest a nice new open world, I think this is a great package to do that. It hits back on those original Assassin's Creed vibes, and it does so in a nice, neat package without any of the fluff that we've seen in recent games. And for me personally, I'm loving exploring around Baghdad, and that's exactly what I'm going to do in this game. I'm going to keep going on tangents. I'm going to get lost in the world and just go where the game takes me, because that's really why I love playing Assassin's Creed titles. That's what this game is going to be for me. And to answer the question that I posed at the beginning of the game, is it going to be that holdover game as we wait for Spider-Man 2? That's exactly what it's going to be for me. I think this game is going to do a great job at that.
Yeah, overall, I think Assassin's Creed Mirage is a very safe and more simplistic entry into the Assassin's Creed franchise, and that doesn't mean that it's a bad game. You know, I see a lot of reviews going around saying that this is a horrible game, worst game I've ever played, and I just don't think that is true. I think this game is perfectly average to above average. If I had to put a number to it, I would be comfortable giving it a 7 or an 8 out of 10. I think it is perfectly... I wouldn't have been surprised if Ubisoft went ahead and tried to charge the $70 for this game, because it isn't that far off from a full AAA experience. It just is very watered down and more simplistic than what we've seen recently from the Assassin's Creed franchise. Now, if you are looking for the classic back to the roots style of gameplay and just Assassin's Creed experience, and you want to kind of relive a little bit of that, then I think Assassin's Creed Mirage is a great choice for you for this game. I really am appreciative of the opportunity to play through this game. I really did enjoy it. Honestly, I enjoyed it a little more than I thought I was going to, just because I've fallen out of favor recently with the Assassin's Creed franchise, and I thought this was like a good first step back into what Assassin's Creed is supposed to be, because I played through Valhalla. That did not feel like an Assassin's Creed game to me. That just felt like a Viking game, and they put the Assassin's Creed game name on it to market it. That's what it really felt like to me. This feels like a good first step back to the traditions of what Assassin's Creed is supposed to be, and I cannot wait to see what Ubisoft does next in this franchise if they keep progressing in this return to the roots style. So guys, would recommend AC Mirage, especially if you're looking for a game to hold you over until Marvel Spider-Man 2 later this month. I definitely don't think you will regret it. I had a lot of fun playing through this game, and I know Andreas did too. So guys, that is our official review of Assassin's Creed Mirage. If you have any questions, definitely put them down below in the comments, and we will do our best to answer them. But that is going to do it for us for this one. Thank you guys all so much for watching, and as always, we will see you all next time.